Okay, I want to focus on the Geogebra Classic because it has options from the graphing calculator and the geometry. So we're just going to use the Classic. So once you click that, it'll open a new tab that looks like this. So I'm going to get rid of stuff I've been playing around with. Alright, so this is kind of what you'll be brought to when you first log in. And there's some different options you can do here, like you can choose different views, but the one that comes natural is a good one. So I'm going to delete these back off since I don't need them. Alright, so you start with the selector. So there's a couple things you can do. You could do point. So you could do a point, you could do a midpoint or a center on, if you had a line segment. But anyways, you could start with some points. So if you wanted to just graph some points and then, ask kids to maybe determine a line from this, so they could determine the line, and then you could prove real quickly the line. So I could click here and click line. And so maybe the warm-up is determine the line that goes through this point and that point. So I click here, and then immediately gives me the line. Now it gives me it in the wrong function. I don't believe there is a function to change it. Let me see. Algebra. Actually, there might. Yeah, here it is. So I can change it to y equals mx plus b. So the way I did that was I clicked here, I went into settings, and then it opened up the settings menu for me. And then I click algebra right here, and then I can choose the form that I want it to be in. So, standard form or slope intercept form. Alright, so moving on. The next thing that you can do is pretty interesting. So I can do a perpendicular line, and it'll tell you what to do. Select point and perpendicular line. So I can select here, select this point, there on the line, and it gives me a perpendicular line through that point. Let me exit out of this so you can see. Okay, and to move the area so you can do it, you click this right here, and then I can drag it up on the graphics view. So I'm going to delete this real quick, don't need that. So I can do a perpendicular line through a point. So again, to do that, I'll do one here again. So perpendicular line through a point. So I select the point and then the line that I want it to be perpendicular to. Okay, so now I have a perpendicular line. So you can talk to students about that. Again, you can go into your settings, click your algebra, change it to slope, intercept form, and then you can talk about, okay, one has a negative slope, one has a positive slope, and that is one thing that it takes for a perpendicular line. So again, you're teaching some concepts really quick. Anytime this is in your way, you can just click X, and then it's no longer there. Alright, so moving on, you can do parallel lines the same way. So if I want to do a parallel line, I select the point, I select the line, and it does a parallel line through that point. And another way to do it is, I could put a point on this line, just to show you, and then put parallel line. And so I could again select the point that I want it to go through, and then the line, and it draws a parallel line for me. Okay, so that's a way that you can quickly do a parallel line through a point. You can do perpendicular bisectors, angle bisectors, and again, it tells you what to do. So if you look down here in the bottom, as I hover over something, it says select 3 points or 2 lines for an angle bisector. For a perpendicular bisector, select 2 points or 1 segment. So pretty easy to do. So if I select a segment, or I have to actually draw a segment first. So if I draw a segment over here, so there's my segment. If I want to do a perpendicular bisector, it says select 2 points or 1 segment. So I just click the segment. Now it's a perpendicular bisector. So I quickly get that perpendicular bisector. Again, you're teaching some concepts real quick if you need to. If, like mine, so I got a lot of stuff going on now that's kind of in the way, I can get rid of things by doing that, or I can delete them. So there's 2 ways to get rid of them. You can just simply click the dot and they go away. And gone. Again, scrolling up, I can get rid of everything that's there and in my way. I'm not sure. Okay, that's my current line, so I'll click here. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of this and this. Alright, So now I have a blank slate again, so we're going to move along. So you can draw polygons. So come across, I can draw simple triangle, I can draw different shapes that I want to using the polygon, and it defaults to naming everything like this. You can actually get rid of that. So to do so, I can click on the polygon, click on the settings. I can determine to show label or not. Or another way, if I don't want the segment to show on this, I can click this segment and I can click here and just say hidden. So click that, click here, hidden. Click that, click here, and hidden. So now I can hide that, so now I only have the points. So if you don't like naming the sides, that's a quick way you can get rid of them. Again, you just click on the segment, you click the A, you click hidden, and it's gone. The other option, you can do value, name and value. So this side length, is 2.24 long. You can do just value. So a couple different options there depending on what you're trying to show your students. So I can do circles with center through a point. So I can just say, there's my circle with center through a point. I can do circle with center and a radius. So I click here and it says name your radius. I click 7, click OK. There's my circle with that radius. Okay. Anytime you do something and you want to go back, you just click undo and it goes away. So I'm just clicking undo, it's gone. Okay. You could do circle through 3 points, not really sure the aspect there. You can do a circular sector, a circumcircular arc. So a couple different options there. You can do ellipses, hyperbolas, parabolas, conic through 5 points. Okay, so we talked about some of the things you can draw by just using the functions. You can reflect about a line. So what I could do, if I wanted to reflect an object about a line, just going to pick here. So maybe I want to reflect this object about a line. What I can do is I can click here. I can say reflect about line. I choose the object I want to reflect. I reflect it over that line. So if you're teaching students about reflections, you can real quickly determine their knowledge, or they can quickly determine their knowledge. Maybe you've given them a problem and they can come to this platform and actually check their answers. You can do the same thing with reflect about a point. A couple different options. So if I put a point right here and I said, I want to reflect about a certain point, I can click the object and then I can say, reflect about that point. Okay. You can also rotate around a point. So I select the object, I select the point, and then I talk about how far. So a common one is 180 degrees, and is it counterclockwise or clockwise? That's common options. So just so happens reflecting about that point and rotating 180 degrees about that same point is the same thing. And so you can talk about those concepts with students. What are some things that are the same? Maybe you don't like the coloration of the object itself, and you can actually, sorry, let me cancel that. You can actually change that. So come back to your selector, select the object. This color right here is red. I can change it to black if I wanted to talk about, all right, here's the original, here's the new, for those students that need some color aspects there. All right, another thing you can do is draw lines. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to get rid of stuff so that it's not in my way. I'm just going to click the undo button a few times. Now that things are out of my way, another thing you can do is down here on your input, is type in some information here. So maybe I want to graph a certain line, so y equals 2x plus 1. It actually graphs that line for me. So I'm going to come over here and show you. So I drag it over. So it graphs the line for me. So I can actually just type in a line real quick. Another thing you can do, you can type in different forms. So x, minus 2, and then squared, plus, and you can obviously see that it's doing a quadratic there, plus y minus 3 squared. You could do that for a circle if you wanted to. some different options there. Equals 20, 25, and well, that's a large. That's just equals 2. Alright, and so there's my circle. So you can actually graph circles really quickly. So if students are trying to learn the concepts of graphing circles, they can do that. Hit enter, and then it's there and it's graphed for you. Another interesting thing you can do is these sliders. So if I click here and I make a slider a equals 1, you can change the min and max here if you want to. You can make it an integer if you want to. And that's what I like, the integer option, because then I can make my increment 0.5 if I want to, and then I'm only going up to 5 and -5. And so now that gives me a little bit better option because it's sliding up. So this is my first option. The name of it is a equals 1. So I'm going to change that real quick, that way it stays. So I make it an integer of a equals 1. The max is 5, -5, and the increment is going to be 0.5. Alright, I'm going to get rid of this one, delete. Okay, then I can add another one and add another slider. I click where I want the slider to go. It's going to be an integer also. I'm going to change it to b equals. Again, I'm going to make this -5 to 5. And I'm going to leave the increment of this one at 1. Alright, so now I can type in a line that has a and b in it. So it's doing the slope intercept ax plus b. And of course you could do mx right there if you wanted to stick with that. And I hit enter. So what happens now is as I use my slider and I'm changing a, you can talk about, alright, now that a is negative, our slope, look at the line. When our slope is positive, look at it. And as I become more and more positive, what happens? As I become more and more negative, what happens? As I change my b value, what is it really changing? Where am I at? So you can talk about a lot of cool concepts there with the sliders. You could do the same thing with this circle. So if I wanted to change this circle to x minus a, I know it's h and k, and then b, and hit enter. Now again, as I change this, I'm going to turn the line off so it's not confusing. As I change this, look what's happening to my center. What is it doing? So what is, what do these two variables represent? You can ask those questions, you can pose those questions, and you're teaching the concepts a lot faster by doing it that way. Okay. And of course, you could even make this r, and then you could add another slider of r, and then talk about the radius. So I could, add a slider, click here, change this to r, leave, -5 to 5. And change my increment if I want to. So there's my r, and so now what I can do is change my r value. Well, actually, let me go here and change this to r squared. Okay, and we can talk about look what happens as the radius, and of course negative is going to be unneeded, but look as the radius approaches 0, and as it gets larger, what's happening, and as my center changes, what's happening. So you can teach concepts really, really fast. Okay, that's the big ideas. Just a few more things though. If you want to do an angle, so maybe I have a polygon, and we want to talk about the angle. I can click here, click angle, and you always go counterclockwise to get the angle that you want. So there it says, that angle is this much degrees. You could talk about, if I had a side length. Here, click back here, click on a side, and I say, give me the value of that. Now you could use this angle and this side, and you can talk about the law of sines and the law of cosines. A lot of different things you could talk about there. But that's pretty much it. There's a lot of other stuff you can do, but that's kind of the basics that can kind of get you started and the student started.